It's really just always some shit. Welcome and welcome back to Life of the Muse. I'm the Muse, this is my life, and unfortunately, sometimes my life turns into content. Make sure you follow the house rules, which are to like the video, comment down below, and subscribe. That way you don't miss an upload. These are the nails of the week. It is Women's Day. I think that is super appropriate. So yeah, I decided that we're gonna have a morning discussion. We're gonna have a coffee time discussion. That's what I'm gonna call this, a coffee time discussion. So go and get you some coffee. I'm actually gonna pause here in a second for you to go get you some coffee because we're gonna sip and chat. What we're gonna chat about today is relationships. Now I know I am not the relationship expert, and everybody in my life knows that too. But I do not agree that single people cannot give relationship advice. I do not agree with that. A few days ago, I was in a relationship. You remember my last video? I was hanging out with my little boyfriend. He ain't my boyfriend no more. It's not funny. I am actually grieving the situation and trying to process it all. But I just want to talk about deal breakers because they are super important. And we're going to break it down into 3 parts. Have them, communicate them, and enforce them. Let's go. Go get your coffee. Okay. Water, coffee. Let's go. Excuse how I look, but like I said, it's a coffee chat. So I'm just waking up. I just crawled out of my bed not too long ago. And this is heavy on my mind because it's heavy on my heart. This video is not intended to be like my Lemonade album or nothing like that. Yeah, no, I'm just talking about deal breakers. So, a deal breaker in a relationship. A deal breaker in a relationship is pretty much anything that is on your list of, oh hell no. Anything that is worth the relationship ending, that is your deal breaker. For example, some people, cheating is their deal breaker. If you cheat on me, the deal is broken. You're out of here. Some people, disrespect is their deal breaker. If you call me out of my name, or you know, you get the yelling and screaming at me because we're arguing, or any type of disrespect, that's their deal breaker. Deal breakers are anything that are so heavy or are so detrimental that you decide that it is worth your relationship ending. Deal breakers are going to vary person by person, right? My deal breaker is not your deal breaker. Some people feel like cheating is just one of those obstacles in a relationship that they could get over, and they don't have a problem with processing it, grieving it, and moving on. That's not the case for everybody, right? Our upbringing and our childhood has a lot to do with our adulthood and how we conduct our adult relationships. So some people have traumas that other people do not have. Deal breakers are often rooted in traumas. I can imagine, and trigger warning, this entire video, I'm not trying to be offensive by anything that I say, and if I do say something incorrect or ignorant, I don't mind being respectfully coached or corrected. But for example, take a young girl who grows up in a house experiencing domestic violence, a young girl or a young boy, and they grow up watching their parents physically fight each other. When they get older, they might have the mindset that hitting your partner is normal. They might have the mindset that hitting your partner is how you solve problems. And so they might go into their adult relationships hitting their partners. Domestic violence is not a deal breaker for them, right? Now, let's say that same little boy or little girl grows up in the house watching their parents fight, and they're like, there is no way that I would ever put my partner through this. Domestic violence is a deal breaker. They get into an adult relationship, their partner puts their hands on them. they're out of there. No, domestic violence is my deal breaker. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Have deal breakers. Have deal breakers. I tell people all the time, I tell y'all all the time, get a journal. I tell people to get a journal all the time. And the reason I brought up a journal is you can literally write your deal breakers down in your journal. You need a set of deal breakers and you need to know what they are. I encountered a situation in this most recent relationship where I was like, am I okay with that? Like, I had never experienced that specific situation. And I had never thought about whether or not it was a deal breaker to me or not. So in that moment, I had to decide, is this something that's okay with me? Is this something that I could tolerate? Do I need to add this to my list of deal breakers? Does this stem off of a deal breaker that I already have? I went through so much trying to process if what he had done was on my list of deal breakers. And I found myself in a space where I really wanted to work on that circumstance and move on with him. I really wanted to get over that hump after grieving it and processing it. And so I was writing in my journal, like, maybe that's not a deal breaker for me, or maybe it is if it would have went this far, or maybe, you know, like, but I found myself in a space where I had to admit to myself I wanted to forgive somebody that did me wrong, pretty much. And the issue that I was struggling with more so there, like, I'm an Aries. I'm an Aries, and I'm not the type of person that tries to avoid accountability because of my zodiac sign. But Aries people have a hard time with forgiveness. We are stubborn and we are stuck in the overthinking. We're stuck in the my way or the highway. And when, like, if you do an Aries wrong, you gonna feel that. That's all I got to say. But I was really battling and upset with myself because I wanted to forgive him. And I don't know. In addition to having your deal breakers, you have to revisit them. Because the deal breaker, oh gosh. So my last relationship was 7 years ago, right? Before this one. My last set of deal breakers was built on 7 years ago. The whole world is completely different now. Like, the pandemic done hit. My money's different. My mindset is different. My living situation is different. My vehicles, everything is different in my life now. And 7 years ago, I was 22, going on 23. If you are 25 and up, you probably understand when I say that at 22, you're still a child, right? So the deal breakers that I had were my child girl deal breakers, my teenage deal breakers. With this adult relationship, you know, that I started at 29 years old, it looked a lot different than the relationship I started at 20 years old. It's almost a whole 10-year difference. So in addition to having my deal breakers, I had to revisit them and see, like, do I still feel like this? Do I still feel like that? Have I gone through something that has given me a new perspective on that? And never, ever, ever change your deal breakers for a person. Change them for you. If you decide, like, actually, that's not that big of a deal. That's not worth me losing my person. Like, you decided, but you don't let the person convince you and gaslight you. Oh, baby, that's not even that serious. That's not even, no. You don't let nobody change your deal breakers, but you can revisit them and adjust them. So point number 1, deal breakers, have them. Sub-point for point number 1, revisit them. Have your deal breakers, revisit them. It's okay to change them, but only if you're changing them for you. Have deal breakers. Point number 2, communicate your deal breakers. You have got to let your partner know what your deal breakers are. And I think that you should have deal breakers in every relationship that you're in. Family relationships, professional relationships. You have to have deal breakers on the job. If you're a server and they're telling you to do hourly labor tasks, that should be a deal breaker, right? You're not getting paid for that. You're working for free. If you have a boss that is discriminatory against you for whatever reason, or a boss that's mean to you or disrespectful to you, like, that should be a deal breaker. That's a harsh working environment. Your job has deal breakers for you. It's in their handbook. So have deal breakers for your job. Have deal breakers for your church. If your pastor start doing some shady stuff, no, like, have deal breakers and communicate them. So your friends should know that doing XYZ to you is a no-no. Your cousin should know doing XYZ to you will get them blocked and cut off, and we can still be family, but you're going to be my family over there. Like, everybody that you're in a relationship with, you should have deal breakers in place for them, but they should know what those deal breakers are. Why? So that they can respect them. As a tarot reader, I often see in relationships that this partner did something that the other one didn't like, but they didn't realize the consequence that was going to come with it. They didn't realize how much dislike their partner had for that behavior or action. They never realized that they were doing something that was a deal breaker for their partner. And you have to give people the room to decide whether or not they want to respect your boundaries and be in your life. A lot of people assume, well, they should just know. They should just know that talking to me like that is wrong. Okay, but what if that's all they saw growing up, was their mom being talked to like trash? And now they think, okay, well, I have to talk to my woman like trash. I understand that sounds silly to some people, like adults know better. But when you get into teaching an old dog new tricks, like, yeah, adults know better, but how practical is it for us to move different just because we one day learned different? You know, it's not an overnight process, and some people really cannot shake the spirit in them that makes them do things they know they shouldn't do. Some people really cannot shake it. And I'm trying real hard to understand that and be patient with that, because the me 10 years ago was more cutthroat and dry and no. But of course, within 10 years, I have went through some things. I have lost some very key people in my life. Like, I have been beat up by several circumstances within the past 10 years, and I don't need no sympathy because I got it. But I've learned a lot, and a lot of what I've went through has changed me. So I'm really just trying to be patient with people. I learned a while ago that the way people treat you has low-key nothing to do with you. Like, the way people treat you is just how they know to treat you and people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, for example, right, if my deal breaker is cheating and I have a partner who's like thinking about it, considering it, yeah, they're wrong as hell for doing it either way. But if my partner is of the mindset, because literally when you get in relationships with people, you can tell what they think is okay. You can tell what they think is normal. Even if they don't think it's okay, you can tell that they think it's just one of those things to get over. Like, you can tell people's level of normalcy in relationships by how they treat you in your relationship. But yeah, if there's a relationship and the man is considering cheating and he thinks like this is just one of those humps in the road that we'll have to get over and we'll be right back, whole time she like, if he cheat on me, he out of here. Like, isn't it fair for him to know that? You know, like, you gotta let people know. You gotta let people know what to expect. You know what I'm saying? If you want your deal breakers followed and respected, I think that you should communicate them. Let people know where they got you effed up at in advance. Like, if you do XYZ. I ran into a young lady that told me that she felt guilty for giving her partner an ultimatum, and you shouldn't. It's necessary sometimes, and ultimatums and deal breakers honestly go hand in hand. Like, if you do this, the great Corey Tarver said, when you choose a behavior, you choose a consequence. But I think that it's fair for the person to know what the consequence is before they get the behavior options. Does that make sense? Not only should you have deal breakers, communicate them. Let your partner know, I ain't going for it. I ain't going for it. I say it in tarot readings all the time. If your deal breaker is apples and your partner keeps bringing home apples, send them packing. They are showing you blatant disrespect, especially if they know that. Now, if your deal breaker is apples and your partner has no clue and they come home, baby, look at this apple. That's not fair. You see, that's not fair. They had no clue. If your deal breaker is apples and your partner really loves applesauce, then you have to ask yourself, am I willing to compromise? Is it just apples that I have a problem with? Or is it applesauce, apple juice, everything? You have to ask yourself that. And then that's you revisiting the deal breakers, right? That's you thinking on it. How far how far up is this wall? How set in stone is this boundary? You have to think about it. Your deal breaker's apples. Applesauce really don't bother you that much. Okay, compromise with your partner. Baby, you can bring applesauce in here, but do not bring any apples in here. That's still a big no-no. There we go. Now your deal breaker is being respected. You've compromised with your partner. You both have what you want. Your partner knows not to bring apples home because you have said to them, that's my deal breaker. Have deal breakers, communicate the deal breakers. Number 3, the most important out of all of these, enforce the deal breaker. Enforce the deal breaker. And that pretty much goes back to do not change them for anybody other than yourself. If my deal breaker is cheating and my partner cheats on me and I tell myself, okay, well, I'm going to stay just this one time. I'm going to stay just this one time. What's going to make the second time different? Because there will be a second time. Why wouldn't there be? Because you stayed the first time. Like, have deal breakers and enforce them. Because you know what? I can't believe this. He ain't do nothing. I was finna say he ain't do nothing wild and crazy, but it was wild and crazy. But he didn't. It's on my list of deal breakers. Whatever he did, clearly we're not together no more. We both agree that he is why we're not together anymore. But I can admit that I know for a fact the specific deal breaker that occurred, there's a lot of other girls and a lot of other men and a lot of other days in them. That's not a deal breaker for them. That's just regular Tuesday for them. And I'm not going for it. I get to enforce my deal breaker. It's fine if you would have taken him back after. That's fine. Like, I can't. Because I know for a fact if I take you back this time, you'll do it again. If you'll do it again, it'll probably get worse and worse every single time. That deal breaker has to stay in place. You have got to go. I have been talking to God and saying, like, maybe we could be friends down the line. I'm not opposed to that, I think. I don't know, but he did that shit. He did that shit, and he knew that I would. That's the thing. People know who they can and can't, right? He knew that that was not going to fly over here, and he did it anyway. Come on, baby. That's not fair. Don't do that. He knew that I was not going for that. He knew that. He knew that. But I don't know what he saw as a child. I don't know what he experienced in his last relationships. I'll be 30 next month. I have less than a month and I'll be 30. He's 8 years older than me. So he got more relationship experience on him than I do. But like, I guess the last girl was okay with stuff like that. She had to have been because he tried it. Like, I ain't her. You got to call Shawty back and get her back because I ain't going for that. Enforce your deal breakers. you cannot change them because somebody wants you to change them. You can change them for you, but not for somebody else. Neither one of us really wanted our relationship to end. It was pretty fresh, and we wouldn't have got into it if we wanted it to end. But it's just interesting watching him walk in a space of regret now, because he had full control of his actions. And it's interesting watching him trying to accept the consequence of his behavior. It's interesting with us trying to fully and completely dissipate the partnership, because it's crazy. Like, and I didn't even realize how different my early 20s relationship would look from my late 20s relationship. There was more business to handle in this most recent relationship, and I'm the type of person, like, I'm not gonna be with you if you're not an asset to me, and if I can't be an asset to you. If we're in a relationship, it's supposed to be a give and take team, and we're supposed to be building each other up. And we had started making building plans, like, not like, oh, us and we, but we had started to make plans about where we could help each other to grow as individuals with our own circumstances and things. And I just really enjoyed that, because it felt real right. It's like, we are both in agreement that we need to work on each other, as like each other and our set. Like, we knew that us as individuals was a priority before us as a couple. Oh, bless me. Sorry, sweet pea. I didn't mean to do all that. I'm sorry. Girl, I done got distracted. Have deal breakers, communicate your deal breakers, and enforce your deal breakers. Do not change them for anybody but yourself. That's really it. That's really it. Have fun in your relationships. Learn, explore, grow, ask questions, get to know each other, but have deal breakers, communicate those deal breakers, and enforce them.